94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 9 minutes after 7 o'clock and into the second hour of our conversation, the Situation Room. It's Friday, the 29th of May, 2026, and we woke up to tragedy again yesterday morning, and we have to ask ourselves a question today. And beyond a question, we need to make certain things clear, that we should not have to wake up to deaths of 16 children and another disaster. We shouldn't have to do that. But we're going to take it from a different angle this hour, even as we talk about that. So, before we get into it, I just want to bring you up to speed. We'll have a poll. It's going to be running in a minute for you to then be able to answer some of these questions. It's time for us to have some serious conversations, but beyond conversations, to actually get some stuff done as it concerns this issue. It is a problem, and as we did in one of the stories that we shared with you from Standard, that it has been a problem for years. There have been task force upon task force, and for some reason, the implementation of these things has never happened. Mm-hmm. But before we get into it, Dennis,
yes,
you toil, you grind, don't you? Every day you're coming, you're doing things. That voice of yours now, you go outside sometimes, you get a gig here and there, you're grinding, you're putting the money aside.
Yes.
Do you know what?
Yep.
Unless it's the kind of money, the kind of wealth that you can now pass down
to
Akina Hamza, you know.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. It doesn't make sense.
But you can do something about it.
Yes, you can. Real wealth is the one that people after you will then be able to say, something was left for us. So what makes sense is the little that you're going to be able to put aside from now that will then be able to be left in the event that you are not there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Not being there is not if.
It is when. It is not about if, it's about when. So have you asked yourself the question that all this stuff that you're grinding for, what exactly happens to it in the event that you're not there?
True.
Probably haven't asked ourselves that question. But the Britam Whole Life Plan is answering that question when you actually ask it. The plan provides lifetime coverage once you complete your chosen payment period of 10, 15, or 20 years. Really? Your beneficiaries, imagine. So you can get into the plan for 10 years. You're grinding, you're putting something aside. You can get into it for 15 years, again, doing the same thing. 20 years, you're doing the same thing. People start to get some money after that.
Because, you see, what that means is, if I'm 25, I do that within 10 years. That means if God gives me 90, from that time when I'm, say, 35 till when I'm 90, that thing is accruing interest every day until my time to be with the Lord comes.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's the real wealth that we're talking about. That you're making money even when your eyes are closed. Your beneficiaries receive an immediate tax-free cash payout, imagine, and your coverage increases by 3% every year. Now you can imagine that money that you thought was a lot at that time. We're going to increase it by 3% every year to take care of inflation. It's like Father Christmas and Mother Christmas. Is there Mother Christmas? Yeah. Wrapped all in one.
Yeah.
Because true wealth is not just what you build, it's the legacy that you actually leave behind, etc. So what we need you today to do is to estimate the word life to 21778. SMS it and your town where you are. Eldoret, life 21778. Or you can call or WhatsApp on 0705 100 100. Somebody's going to be able to walk you through what you need to do. Because, folks, it's not about when. It's not about if. It's about when. It's not if it is going to happen.
Yeah.
The question is, when is it actually going to happen? We'll give you more information about this as we get along. Okay, fires in schools. Remember that 33 young men and women, young girls and boys, coming from the eastern part of the country in 12 schools spanning Taita to Veta, were brought before a court of law that they were then charged with arson. That this had started around about the end of first term towards the second term, as has been established by the Claire Omolo task force that took place in 2016. Coco. Now, it had been established that, second term was tough. Let's take some facts into consideration. It's the longest term in the school year. It's about 15 weeks. Kids are in school for a long time before they come home for 3 days and then they go back. But this term is for everybody. So now for those who are in boarding school, they're grinding for a long time. So it's the longest term. For your Form 4s, this is when now you're really getting into it and you're trying to remember everything that you studied from Form 1, 2, 3, because there's this big exam that's coming that essentially is going to chart your the course of your future that comes about in November. So it's tough. And I had a conversation with a Form 4 student a couple of weeks ago, and she just looked like, this is the beginning of term 2, she looked like she was going to fall apart at some point, and she was just telling me, this is an A student, but she said it is overwhelmingly difficult. So they feel the pressure. This is not just me saying this. These things came up in the Claire Omolo report, okay? And they said that the pressure that they feel around second term is great, and that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. For those who've not finished syllabus, that's where
the time.
They're packing it in because they need to be done. Term 3, there's nothing you're learning.
Nope.
Everything is fully revisional. All right? So they need to make sure that you finish your syllabus. If you, for some reason, you do not finish it by term 1, this is where you're packing it all in. This is also the time that they feel as though they can start to make complaints about things that have been happening, whether it's their wherewithal when it comes to food, the quality and quantity of it, that they see that things start to wax and wane around term 2.
Term 2, yeah.
And then they say, come on, guys, there's a little bit more weevil in my beans this term than there was around this time last year. You know what I'm saying?
I'm eating a lot of paraffin, man. Kerosene.
Exactly.
We need to stop it.
So the complaints come. Again, this is not Ndu saying. This is, if you actually, that Claire Omolo report is available, you can actually go and look at some of the things that they say that are genuine concerns. And it's not just from one school. It is that they've taken what is that thing that you do when you're taking a sample? That's the word.
A sample.
They're taking samples from different...
Yeah, the sample size of all the schools.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And they've been able to establish that these are actually the reasons. So there are different things that come up. Another thing is that corporal punishment is banned in Kenya.
True.
However, don't be deceived that it doesn't still take place. This is another thing that came up in this report, that children are mishandled in school. And I know that there are some adults today who are functioning victims of PTSD, who remember the things that were done to them even when corporal punishment had been banned.
True.
Okay? Children are still being beaten. We are still dealing with the hangovers of children will be seen and not heard. And this attitude is even taken to school, whereby even if you had an opinion, God forbid, nobody wants to hear your opinion. You do as I say and not as I do. Yeah. So you can't have an opinion. God forbid that you should even then voice that opinion.
True.
We want to ignore it, but it is true. The human beings who live in your houses when they're on holiday are the same human beings who go to these boarding schools.
Yeah.
They don't change. They don't eat weevils in their food when they are in their parents' house, I don't imagine.
If there is a parent who feeds their children weevils, tell us.
Maybe you can tell us, okay? When a child is sick and you present yourself to the teacher and they say, where are you, Dennis? You're just pretending. Able go back to class. When a child is sick in their parents' home and it has been established, mind you, I do actually accept that some children will feign illness in order to avoid going to class, sitting an exam. They will feign illness. But in the time when a child is unwell, that you are denied medical care is a reality. Again, another factor that made it into the Omolo report. We also know that these criminal activities that they're talking about that push children to the brink are a lot of times, mind the words that I use, not all the times instigated by staff and or teachers of schools who go nudge students and they say, excuse me, are we doing something today? This time, you guys are kind of quiet. Nothing is happening.
You guys are not tired.
This, again, is in this report. I beg you. One of the things that we don't do is we don't read.
Yeah.
And that is one of the problems. Look at that report. This is what they said in this report as per the reasons why they see this unrest. Now, unrest combined with frustration is equals to a lot of the incidences that we see that we are still reporting about to date. Why do I bring this up? In as much as we do not know the reason or the cause of the fire at Utumishi yesterday morning, we do know that in this time period, that many cases have been documented and things have been recommended for action that were not done. I just want to repeat in case anybody missed out. Okay?
Yeah.
1994, Kirima Task Force 1 sat. And they studied student strikes and arson in schools. In 2001, the government appointed another team, the Task Force on Student Discipline and Unrest in Secondary School. It even had a snazzy title. Yeah. The verdict mirrored the findings of the Kirima team.
Yes.
This is 7 years later. Are you understanding? 7 years after the fact, they established that whatever they found out in 1994 is the same thing that they found in 1991. Are we together?
Yes.
All right. They finished that one. We put it on the shelf and it collected the proverbial dust. Many years later, before that, in 2016, the government appointed Claire Omolo to head this task force that restated the recommendations of the last two teams in detail. Please, whatever was in the Claire Omolo report of 2016 in detail is what was in the report of 2001 and the Kirima report of 1994.
Yes.
There were certain recommendations that were made. So let's leave the social issues aside. Those ones for our food is bad, our teachers are terrible, they are beating us, they are feeding us little animals. Put that one aside. Let's look at the recommendations that were made, whereby the news bite from what Sheila Tembur told us just a few minutes ago talked about people who are trying to send ladders up to the windows. But what was the reason why the kids could not get out? There are grills on the doors, on the windows, can't get out. Okay. So you can't get out using the ladder that has been sent. And who was telling them to go and look for something else? Who?
Police.
Police.
Please find for a metal bar so that you can break the door.
The door, they cannot get to the door because what? It is locked from where?
Outside.
Outside. This is where children are sleeping. Then you lock the door from outside. So you have to ask yourself, what exactly was going on here? I'm telling you about reports that followed 7 years later, and people are saying, guys, this is actually what we need to do. There was even a report that said, until you meet these standards, we are not even going to allow you to register as a school, talk less of allowing you to admit students in the school. Who followed who?
Sindu, it's unfortunate that in 1994, if implementation went into place, we would not be having this discussion today. I will also remind you of an incident where former Education Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i went to a school during his rounds, went to a dormitory and asked the head teacher at the time, "Excuse me, sir, this is the place where these children are sleeping. Would you yourself sleep in
here.
Such conditions?" The gentleman said no. And I remember Matiang'i told the gentleman, "I want you to fix this mess, not tomorrow, but immediately, so that we can give these children the best they deserve." We're here talking about reports that have always been on these shelves. What I want to pretty much follow through is the ministry is the custodian of this report. What is their mantra, or what is the process of implementing this report? What has been done, say, from Kirima 1, right? From Kirima 1. What did they do with that report before we got to 2016, before we got all the way to Claire Omolo? Was there any implementation of all these reports?
No.
No. So then here we are surprised why, when you talk about the quality assurance, is not there, is because all these things people know they ought to be done. But we might as well come, set up a building and say, this has been funded by CDF money, and that's all we want to see. We want to see buildings. The nitty-gritties when it comes to safety is never a subject of conversation.
You know what? It is unfortunate that when you're having a conversation like this, that you will then actually look and say, if this had been done, then perhaps this would not have happened. Yeah. Now, if this was arson, which we're yet to establish, we have to be very careful here. Yeah. We're yet to establish, because investigative authorities have not told us the cause of this. They are yet to. Even from that report, we hear that some of the details that are coming through could point to arson. Until that is established, we cannot. But there are certain things within that space that you have to look at and say, if the recommendation of these at least four reports since 1994 had been established, there were some things that we would have then been able to save, and that's a very painful thing. That if there were no grills on those windows, for example, it is very possible that that ladder that had been put up to the wall, some of those girls would have then been able to escape. That is the truth. If some of those recommendations had been put in place, then you would have known that it is very possible that in a room which is not supposed to have more than 20 beds, that's just as an example, then we would have been sure that there would have been more space. And that's the thing, that fire will cramp up where there is less space for things to move. It's crowded, it's packed. What kind of materials are you using? What kind of beds are you putting inside there? What is the material for those beds? What's the material on those beddings? Should there be a standard that should be followed so that in the event that something happens, the damage and the severity is reduced? That's what we are talking about. So if these reports had actually been implemented, and we're not even talking about that one for school unrest, we're not talking about this one for curriculum, we've not even reached there yet. We're not talking about teacher behavior, we're not talking about school implementation, we are talking about safety standards for schools that have boarding facilities.
My question as well, Ndu, is, in these institutions that we are in, do we have fire extinguishers?
Oh my God.
Because at any given point in any jurisdiction, the first responders would be trained individuals within that space who know how to use all these fire extinguishers to get rid of fire. But here we have children, number one, who they're living in buildings that don't meet standard. Fire extinguishers is a mirage. We do not have even fire exit points in these institutions. And even the doors where would be places where these children would use are locked. The doors that would enable them to even jump outside have grills. Yet we're here saying we are offering quality. What exactly is quality when the way these children live does not meet the standard?
It doesn't meet the standard.
Where is the quality in all this? Because quality is not in what you make them understand. Everything in that space fits in that quality.
And you know what? I mean, I'm going to hear that, now you're just upset because there's another fire. Then I say, yes.
I'm upset.
I'm upset because there's another fire. I'm upset because even when the Russia burnt down, there was another fire and it went to court and people say, okay, well, there's a court case. Let's hear. I was upset then. If I want to say, been shouting and talking about what needs to happen in spaces where you put our very precious children day in, day out for years. When precious talent came down in 2021, and they told us that by that year, I can't forget, it came down in September when children died. And there's a makeshift building where you want to pretend that children who are running all over the place, you're using chicken wire to hold it together. What did they tell us then? Under President Uhuru Kenyatta's regime, that I won't forget, September is when that school fell. October 31st, there was supposed to be a report about the safety standards in schools. Till tomorrow. Till tomorrow. Nothing. That report has not been made public. A very public show of destruction happened when the country's children died. Then you want to take that report and you want to hide it under a bushel? You must be on drugs. And the very potent kind. Because I will be upset. And the thing is that we don't get upset enough that children die and then we say, it's just a tragedy. We'll do better. No. Yes, I'm a journalist. I share information. I can also then be in a space whereby we lead conversation in a certain direction where we're saying, for the people, you must do better.
True.
How do you explain to me that functioning human beings head task forces and you see, Dennis, you commission someone. You commission someone and you say, you know what, there's a problem here. So what you need to do is you need to go around schools And you need to either tell them that if you've not met 1, 2, 3 standard, or not even that we're even going very far, you need to do your study and tell us the reason why we are seeing these things happening. Changuli was terrible.
Yeah.
The people who buried their sons in Changuli today, they've not forgotten. Those who had to bury stumps because their children were charred beyond recognition, they've not forgotten. Horrible, horrible things like that have happened, and they still happen. People thought that Russia was the last, and here we are again with this kind of thing. So they told you to go and find out what happens around here. You commission them to do it. They come and they tell you, we are the experts. You put us here because we're the experts. They come and tell you, now, if you don't want this kind of thing, hey God, if you don't want this kind of thing to happen again, this is what you must do. You say, thank you very much, Mr. Dennis. You take the thing and you put it under the table. Then it happens again. Then you come and say, you know what? Let's get someone else to come and form a commission, task force, whatever the hell they call it. Then they come and tell you, you see, that thing those guys told you 7 years ago to do. Yeah. You need to actually do it. Because if you do it, we will solve this problem and we will not have such a bad case again. Tawa. Then you say, thank you very much, Mr. Dennis. I'm very grateful. We even have ceremony. We even serve tea and mandazi on the day you're presenting the report. Then everybody goes home. Then, 15 years later, no, even between that, David Koech did one for 2008. David Koech sat and they did one, 2008.
I think there are actually 2 before 2016,
They told you, now, in fact, the words that are being used to the detail, the report that this group came up with mirrors the one that you had before. They were prescriptive. They told you what you needed to do. Did you? No. You were even, you as a ministry even came out later and you said, you know what we're going to do now? Even before we register your school, even before we allow you to admit students, we want to ensure that safety standards, all of these things are met. We will not even give you registration license. We won't. I don't know if it rained and poured and we woke up the next day and then epiphany happened. But those things also didn't take place. Jerry is here telling us how people were in rooms like sausages. In fact, sausages have more space than some of the boarding schools that we see in their dormitories. People have to eat in shifts because the thing is so damn packed. It's true.
Yeah, true.
These are the things that we are talking about.
Yeah.
So in the event that there's fire, there are schools today that have, there are schools today, because this thing I'm passionate about it, man. There are schools today where the children are sleeping in the sanatorium because there is no space. God forbid if something happens in that sanatorium, what are you going to tell them? Look, Dennis, please talk because I'm just,
Now, I hear you, and it's because we have children in these schools. We have gone through these schools. I tell a story of how one day a school somewhere woke up to a report of a reported arson attack that was to happen. And the 20 liters of diesel that had been bought had been stored on a ceiling. On a ceiling. You know what happened? All the ceiling, roofs, and whatever in that school were brought down.
Yes, no, that's the action.
Yeah. Because we can't allow this to happen. So all the ceilings were brought down in the event where it was raining. Just know you will do your homework. There is no teaching that will happen because of the noise. But that is a step that was taken. But here we talk about government commissioned reports that the government has in store. Now, what exactly does this report do? Do we have ministries that have come up with implementation mechanisms of the same? No. We talk about district officers, extension officers who then report back to the ministry or TSC. When they go to these schools, are they just there to look at Okay, fine. How many textbooks do you have?
You think they even do that? When they go for the meeting, they see the guy in the front. They say, "Nyaje, mnaendeleaje? Tuko salama." Mzuri sana. Sawa. Tuone next year.
Let's assume the quality is they're looking for is on the textbook, but nobody ever bothers to go look at this dormitory. Based off the architectural plans, is supposed to house how many students, and how many students do we have? If we have more students than the capacity that dormitory can hold, then that is a school that does not meet the code set out by the ministry. But this is the story that happens across the country, because remember, here we're talking about dormitories, but remember the same government today tells us that you will go to a class that is supposed to have 45 students, but we have 60 plus, and it's the government that is confirming that to us. Now imagine if an accident, a fire was to break out in that class with students who are more than the capacity that is required.
God forbid.
We look at these things, we gloss over them, and we move. But here's the thing, adult population, the government of this country needs to look at children in schools as people. These are not statistics for you to say we have managed to have 100% transition to secondary school.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. This May, enjoy more drama on Star Times. Unrivaled stories.
Tanggol, you will leave as a Dimagpa, but return as a Montenegro.
Characters you can't forget. More love, more secrets, more twists that leave you breathless.
You're a true monster, Benito. We will fight for what's rightfully ours.
Recharge your monthly subscription today and unlock endless drama every single day. From heartbreaking betrayals to burning romance, the drama never stops. Experience Novella E now on Nyota Bouquet on Aerial and Nova Bouquet on Dish Decoder. Download the Star Times On app to enjoy all your favorite shows and stream live channels on the move. Star Times, enjoy digital life. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Become a duty master at any given point, then you should be conversant with all the reports and all the details and all the code that are supposed to be met in that school. If you are a duty master and can't even operate a fire extinguisher, then you are a duty master for who exactly and for what?
One of the things that comes clear is that there are certain processes that were followed at a time gone by. That there are people who, I mean, even in the comments that we're hearing or we're seeing this morning, they're talking about that we used to have drills. We knew what was supposed to be done.
Yeah.
So my question happens is that, has there been a decaying over time of what's supposed to be done, or the understanding that certain processes should actually be played out? Remember what I told you earlier about the guy in Hungary who goes into a factory and every day his job is to
Flip a switch.
4 hours later, flip a switch. At the end of the day, fill a report. That in the absence of that duty, that there is something more terrible that would happen in this mundane act of flipping a switch every day. That without him doing his job, that something else would go wrong. Now, I'm going to relate that directly to the quality assessors that should actually be going around, who will go to said school and say, well, this is my day. I have my flip chart. I would need to see your dorms. And you make sure that everything is in place. I would need to see your kitchen. I would need to see your whatever, your dining hall, whatever.
Quality of water.
Exactly. All of those things taken into consideration, because it is a set standard. Now, do we have it? Is it that people don't want to do their job? Is it that people are afraid to topple the apple cart? Is it that nobody wants to ruffle any feathers? So what they come and say, institution such as this you should not have grills on your windows. You should not have 60 girls crammed into a room that should be just for 20.
Yeah.
You should not have no, I've even forgotten my chemistry. The one that conducts and retains heat, that kind of material, you should not have. Shouldn't have in schools. Because guess what? That is what is in the code of standard for schools in this country. That's what's in the code. So why have a code? Why have the people sit down, do the painstaking work of saying this is the standard that we need to keep? If you are going to take people's children and keep them in school in order for them to learn, this is the standard that must be kept. Why have people do all that if you're not going to follow it? Now, they say, okay, you are human beings, so the chances of you following it every day then are slim to none. So we will send you people who will come and check to make sure that you actually do it. Now, this is my problem. These people who are supposed to actually be going regularly to check and then come back with reports and say, actually, you know what, in my region, schools 1 to 150, they're okay, they're doing fine. I found 30 schools that are beyond code. Shut it down. Why do we have a problem with being radical in the details, but then now when things happen that are so tragic, then we want to cry? That's why this story, why you should brace for more school fires under the state's watch, makes sense. Because 1 + 1, my brother, is not 7. It is 2. In the last 16 years, you didn't do what you hired experts to tell you to do.
Which they did.
And they did it. And in those last 16 years, we have had over 200 students die in fire. I'm not talking about other things, in school fires. Now, do you understand when I say 1 + 1 = 2? So, we need to be radical in the details because that is where the devil lies. Shut it down. Standards. You have initiated them. Keep them. If you cannot have a secondary school or whatever school, I hear people are even sending their children to boarding school at the age of 9. Okay. If you must, there are certain standards you must keep. If you cannot, shut it down. Children dying in the manner in which they died yesterday or 2 years ago or 4 years ago should not be the story we should be telling.
And I think as we have this discussion as well, we must start having conversations on normalizing parents being part and parcel of visiting facilities that are in schools.
Oh, don't even get me started on that one.
I want to be a parent where I will go to a school, go to a dormitory and see the bed where my child is sleeping. I want to see the exit and entry points of that dormitory.
I'm sorry, on that note, there are many dorms that have an entry, no exit. That's just a point for you to remember.
I want to look at the size of the windows in that dormitory. I want to look at the plans of that dormitory, the capacity that that dormitory should have vis-a-vis the actual number of students and children in that dormitory. And I think that information as well, Ndu, is something that should be standard and printed outside that dormitory so that students themselves have that information and can raise a concern whenever that is flouted. You know why? Because for a very long time, we've looked at students as children who do not have an opinion. But if we normalize it, that a student is able to call out nonsense in schools and that we are able to deal with that, then we are at a position to address these things way on time. We need to be told when children are going to school, it is good to tell us that we need to buy a bus, but we equally need to be told during this term, before midterm, there will be a fire drill, and we invite PTAs, we invite parents to be part and parcel of that program. We equally need to be told as parents that during this period, we will have investigators or guys who will come and look at our fire hydrants and see if they are up to date, because those things do expire.
Exactly.
You know, we need as well to be told in this school, we have OSHA here, people who've been trained. Yolanda is one of them, right?
Yes.
We have students who've been trained, especially the prefects, who know how to use fire hydrants, who know where the fire assembly point is. I'm going to ask you, in your school, do you know where fire assembly is? Where your child runs to in case there's fire?
Because it is me now, I know. Where, in fact, in the building I see.
Yeah.
Now, there are 2 schools in question here, and I have to think. I've seen one in the administration block, but because I've never been allowed to go to the dorms, I don't know if one exists.
Yes.
I could ask them.
So here's the question. Do these children even know where to run to whenever there's fire?
Do they know how to engage a fire extinguisher?
No, they don't.
I should ask them today. Do you know how to engage a fire extinguisher?
You should ask.
When it happens, do you
When
know
it
how
happens.
to engage one? Has somebody taught you? Do you know what to do? Do you know who your fire marshal is, for example?
Exactly. Because we are here looking at, we want these kids to have an A, but you're not making everything that is conducive for them to have that A. A bright student, an A student, has died in a fire that could have been avoided. So what quality of education are you giving when you can't assure this child is able to start and end and get that A?
Why is it difficult, Dennis, for us to be radical? Because it seems that that's the only language that is understood.
Yeah.
Why is it difficult to be radical? Why is it difficult to say that this is the set standard? These are the agents that we have employed to ensure that that standard is upheld. Why is it difficult? Is it because of money? Because I go to your school and then you tell me, I beg, just take this money, you relax, everything is okay. So you sell the soul of children and a system for 30 pieces of silver. Why is it difficult for you to say, you know what? What will be on my head in the event of a tragedy is life.
Yeah.
Not what I'll buy with this money that you're giving to me. So if you don't meet the standard, I have to report it.
I have to close you down.
And beyond that, when you take it to the next person, why is it so difficult for them to say, you know what? We have set standards. You have not met them. You cannot operate. Because tell me one. Tell me what. I know that there were some schools last year, CS or Gamba said, you know, if you don't, because people were trying to do lip service to tell us that they were actually getting something done, then they said, okay, they're not going to open. Eventually, they were given the license to go back to school. But these ones, where things like this happen, when you have not ensured certain things, why is it so difficult to say, excuse me, as the bell tolls, we are not opening this school until you meet and maintain. You see, it's not just meeting, because you know you can meet for me today, I come.
Yeah.
But then what if I showed up randomly on the 17th of July and asked you, hey, sis, how far? How am I going to be sure that what I gave you the green light for is still the standard? You see, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The guy with the switch comes back at 12, whether there's somebody watching or not, and puts on the switch. Comes back at 4, puts on the switch and fills his report, because not that somebody is watching him, because he knows that in the absence of the fulfillment of his duty, there will be danger. Until we reach that level of responsibility and accountability, there will be more fires. There will be more destruction. There will be more death. Am I sounding sensational? Yes. Because until we do, we will continue crying. We will continue begging God to have mercy. We will continue hoping that things get better. But I think there's even a point where God says, yes, I understand. You need me to come down. But you know what? I've given you all that you need. So just do it. Do it. Do it. I'm thinking about the impossible task that father who was stripping yesterday, not to tell anybody, the impossible task of coming to terms with any kind of reality that his daughter is dead. And then you want to come and tell that person in the image of somebody else tomorrow that the same thing has happened. Impossible. So when you think about it like that, then you will say, yes, be sensational, make noise, shout on the radio on Spice FM, do the noise, make the noise. But something has got to give. Can you imagine? We were in this room.
Yeah.
With maybe different people in 2021 shouting about precious talent and saying, how do you put children in a school and then you enforce it with chicken wire? We were shouting. We made noise. We said, no, this cannot happen. Next one, made noise again. Now we are here. In the Russia, we cried. And we said, how can this happen? We cried again. Now we are crying again. And you have the panacea. But you choose not to engage it.
No.
Ah, man.
I think right now, this conversation, we've had it and called on duty bearers to do their job. I think this is the right time for us to tell parents. We have waited for a very long time for the government to do what it ought to do. 16 is a number that we shouldn't be reporting today if we only met the code. Therefore, parents, today is time for you to go to that school and demand to see these things. It is parents to push these schools and the administrators of these schools to meet that code. Because we'll keep on waiting for government to act, and we have just proved that since 1994, nothing has happened. We are the parents with these children in these schools. We are the ones who are paying school fees. We are the ones who are burying these children.
Yes.
We are the ones who are burying these children. The government of the day will come and say, we will meet the burial expenses.
Doesn't cut it.
But I have lost my child. So for parents today, insist to go to that dormitory, look at where your child is sleeping. If anything, demand for the plans for that dormitory and the number of children who are supposed to be there. Demand to look at the exit and entry ways for that dormitory. Look at that window. Insist for grills to be removed, because we can't afford to sit and say the government will act. It is only through that then the pressure will escalate and the government will be forced to act. Because remember, this government is for us. It has proved it is not working for us. We must therefore push until that point where things start moving. Because we will come up with a report. The DCI will give their report.
Oh, yeah. Somebody's crunching it right now. The report
They will give
be
us
out.
a report.
Yeah.
But so far, the first time it happens, it's by accident. The second time, I did not know. The third time, man, it was by design. All these reports that are on those shelves just collecting dust is by design. Until when will we say enough is enough? We need things to change. Or are we waiting for another point then to start shouting on the radio? Yet we have an opportunity of going to these schools and fixing these things as parents with children in those spaces. And as well, what are we telling these students? Because if the students could speak, who knows? Maybe they would be hard. But we're looking at children not as people. We are looking at them as cabbages that shouldn't be hard. Yet they have opinions. Who knows? Who knows if someone had just spoken up? Who knows?
Or somebody had done something about it.
Or someone had done something about it. If all these education officials had walked in there and looked at these spaces and said, it does not meet code, until that time when it meets code, will not allow students to be in these dormitories. Because you want to tell me, if you were a parent at that school and you walked that dormitory and saw the door locked from outside, you would not raise a question.
I said we're not going to school.
Tell me about it.
I said that day we were
Exactly.
I said that day we all sleep here. We are not going
Thank
to
you.
school today. We are not
Thank
learning
you.
here. We're not doing whatever we need to do here. We shut it down.
You walk into a dormitory and you're seeing 3 bunkers. Where a 10-year-old jumping from a bunker down in case of fire. You as a parent would not raise concern about it?
So they keep you out
They keep-
because they know that they're not doing
They
the
are
right
doing the
thing.
wrong thing. So for parents, push until that time when the right thing is done. If the government will not do it, we will push the government to do the right thing.
I'd rather they call you mad and
Exactly.
radical, but you're insisting on something to be done so that we avoid this insanity that is in the minds of the parents of 16 girls today. Do you know, I had a thought. I mean, call it morbid, but me and my thoughts sometimes. But I thought about the girls who heard the screams of their classmates, their dorm mates, who died and they couldn't do anything about it. Who today now they're saying we need to counsel them because it's possible that they would actually run mad. Yes, those are the things that we are talking about today. That somebody is going to be affected. Yes, it is sensational because it is. It is sensational. It's crazy because it is. If you can point to paper the things that have been recommended over time and you refuse to do them, if it doesn't make you run mad, then I don't know what is wrong.
You got the problem. Let me just read for you what a student said. A student from Mutumishi Girls Academy, Gilgil, Nakuru County, narrated the horror of a night inferno at the school's dormitory. She said Wednesday was a holiday. The learners went to the dormitory earlier and usually observe the weekend timetable. We went to sleep at 9 p.m. after refreshing ourselves. However, at around midnight, someone shouted for everyone to leave their cubes because the dormitory was on fire. Confused, the hundreds of students did not know what to do. Drills, remember the drill conversation where they're supposed to run to? They did not know what to do. While some scampered for safety, others screamed for help, and others suffocated. By the time she left her bed, the fire had covered the entire cube. By the time I was leaving the bed, the fire had covered the hallway of Cube 6 and Cube 7, and we could not get to the door. Forced to return to the safer side of the cube, the student said some started suffocating as smoke choked them. She said, amid the confusion and trauma, they were forced to open the window and jump. Our cubes were in the first floor, but we had no option but to jump. When I hit the ground, I could not feel my hands and legs. She said she felt her leg and hand break, then lost consciousness. The student only regained consciousness at St. Joseph Hospital in Gilgil, where she was undergoing treatment. I saw doctors at the hospital who did first aid to me. They said I had fractures in my hand and injured my head. We've talked about drills. We've talked about exit and entryways. If these children had been taken through these processes, whenever someone made noise that there was fire, they would have known exactly where to go and what to do. We have staircases, but do we have exit staircases from outside whenever there is fire? Because in such a case, whenever there is fire, these kids know we come through this way. This is the way we always go inside. They don't know about the other route. They don't know if there is staircases from outside that would enable them leave. The easiest way for this girl was to jump from the first floor. Yet this building we saw was a 3-story building. So what happened to those who jumped from the 2nd story? From the 3rd story? These are kids. And as parents, this is a child who's narrating exactly what happened. What is our responsibility in ensuring that this doesn't happen? It is about time as parents as well, we stop saying, nimepeleka mtoto shule aende kusoma. Aende kusoma wapi? In what conditions? In what surrounding? Parents must be part and parcel of all these drills. They must be part and parcel of designing these dormitories where their children will be in. Communities around that school should be able to come in and make decisions for children from within and without. Because schools are in communities. It is community members who ran with ladders to save those children.
That is it.
They should have an input in buildings being set up for children of the Republic. It can't be that it is someone who's coming in with a CDF and an architecture without involving the members on where the children will be. It cannot be. It can't be.
Shut it down. This is what I'm saying. If you because what you've said, I don't know whether it's greed. You don't want to spend a little more extra money to make sure that standards are kept, or that you do what you need to do. The people sleeping on mattresses that are wafer thin, kinds of things that are essentially those ones that are just raw, dry tinder for fire. These are the things that we are talking about. Is there a certain kind of mattress that you must have in rooms? Should you have fire-resistant material that is used to make beds? Yes, it's expensive. It's expensive. But you know what? So are the lives of 16 girls who will never see their family again.
No.
You can't compare the value on life to a little bit more in terms of shillings that you're going to spend on a mattress that's supposed to be compliant for certain safety standards. Or don't put the grills on the window, for crying out loud. Use another material if you want to secure the thing.
What kind of paint are we having on our walls? That is, it is highly combustible, highly inflammable.
This is what we're talking about.
What kind of wood are we using? Is it engineered wood that whenever there is fire, it can withstand that? What kind of materials are we putting in there for us to say this building is safe? What does the code say? Did we follow the code?
We have to get to the point whereby you can take this sensationalism and call it what you want. But if you're not radical in the details, then absolutely, then you're going to go with that story that's on page 2 of the Standard today, and you're going to say, then be ready for more. Be ready for more destruction. Be ready for more death. If we are not going to insist that certain levels are kept and that certain standards are established and then maintained, and that if people will not do their job, then that question that we ask, should all of these non-compliant institutions and schools be shut down? Yes.
Yes.
Shut it down. Shut it down, and somebody has to take this thing by the reins. If you're not going to take it by the reins, that's when we're going to have people landing with helicopters in Gilgil, and people are going to come by and now start crying and say, oh, you had an opportunity, we'll meet and we'll form a task force to find out what happened. If you don't do what task forces have told you to do in 1994, 2001, 2004, 2008, 2016, if you don't do what they have told you to do, you will bury more. It sounds morbid, but that's the truth. You have to be radical. Otherwise, be ready for more. It's 8 a.m.
This is The Situation.